everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sip and Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z. Hello, hello.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Buenos tardes. Buenos.
Sunday.
Yeah,
It is Sunday, July
14th.
the 14th.
It's the middle of
Um,
July, y'all. It's
hmm
the middle of the
and it feels
summer.
like the middle of hell. It
Oh,
literally feels like we're
oh
in the middle
my.
of hell.
Oh, I don't know about that because I'm inside the house, so I don't know.
If you ever have to venture out, it feels like hell. It is
But I've been
110.
outside.
It's going to feel like a, right. Today is going to feel like 110 degrees. We are the
Seriously?
meats. Yes. We are meats.
OMG.
Okay.
I was at the harbor yesterday, but I was inside the ice cream shop most
No,
of
it
my
wasn't
visit.
that bad yesterday, though. It wasn't that bad yesterday.
But
Relatively speaking, to
right,
what
right,
you've
right.
been experiencing. Yesterday was a cakewalk.
So today is supposed to be hot?
Yes, it's an excessive heat advisory. We've been in an excessive heat advisory now for like a week and a half, and there's no end in sight. But
Well, for
global
those of
warming doesn't
you I was
exist.
just about to say, so but global warming does not exist, correct?
No, there's not.
It does not.
The
It's a
Earth is
figment.
flat.
Yes, the earth is flat. There's
The
no
Earth is
global
flat.
warming,
There's no global
none of
warming.
that.
And yesterday, what
Um,
happened was not staged. So somebody out here acting like
anywho,
they Tupac, like they Tupac.
yo, the memes have been hysterical that I've seen. I only saw a couple this morning because by the time I got home last night, I really wasn't paying attention. So,
I've seen three memes that have been my favorite. The first meme was if you're a Game of Thrones fan, and you should be at this point, this is a spoiler. It's probably going to be a 2-minute spoiler. So if you haven't seen Game of Thrones yet, this is the time to tune out. Come back in like 2 minutes.
right.
Um, I don't know if y'all know Lady Tyrell, but when
Mhm.
Jamie went to Lady Tyrell
Mhm.
and was like, okay, I know, like I forgot why he came to her, but she said, let's tell Cersei it was me that killed Joffrey. She poisoned her son. Somebody sent the meme that had Melania's face transposed in that it was like, tell him it was me.
Oh, the internet will not be defeated
No. The
ever.
other two memes I saw were Boys in the Hood, Ricky running
Oh
down the
gosh.
alleyway. They had
Really?
it was Trump. And then they had they had the other side of that, which was the guy that was in the car with the
Yeah.
shotgun that shot Ricky. They had
Yeah.
Biden's face on his.
Oh god. Oh my god. Who was saying no, Ricky? Who was saying Ricky? Anybody?
No,
Anybody
they
was
didn't
saying
have
Ricky?
anybody say that.
Okay. Because oh my, that's just so disturbing. I saw the 50 Cent one.
That's what I said. He gonna be out here
Um.
acting like he Pac. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
he out
It's
here acting like he's Pac.
anyway. We like our
But
good government jobs, so you know.
yes, yes. So that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah.
And then
No comment.
no, that's pretty much where we are. I mean, I think we're just
Hmm.
jumping into hot tea because I just started out hot. We just started off hot.
Coming in hot.
Um, definitely coming in hot. The episode today is called Transparency. And one of the the hot tea topics that I have, I guess can lean into that. Another spoiler alert. So if you just know, and I'll try to put this time in the episode notes. But if you haven't heard, Tyler Perry dropped a new movie. It's called Divorce in Black,
Mm,
starring Megan Good and Corey Hardrick and Hardick or whatever it is.
yeah. T is his
And
ex-husband.
yes, and I am not a y'all already know if you don't know, I am a huge movie snob. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt, understanding that I am a huge snob, okay? And I've never been a fan of Tyler Perry's work. There's been one movie that I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed, and that was The Family That Prays.
Mhm.
That was a very good movie.
Mhm.
Um,
That had Kathy
I don't.
Bates in it, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
Alfred Woodard, Sanaa
Yes,
Lathan,
that's
very
right.
good movie. Um, I don't think there are any others. I mean, Why Did I Get Married was pretty good, the first
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
And I leaning into this transparency, this movie was hot garbage on the day of today.
With the
I'm
100
sorry.
with the excessive heat warning?
Yes.
Hot garbage with the
And
excessive heat warning?
yes, and I'm sorry. I understand that this is not catered to somebody like me. Let's just say that. I'm fully aware that I am not his target audience, right?
Right.
I'm fully aware that there is a target audience and they eat this type of stuff up. I'm also fully aware that there are some people who aren't as hypercritical over movies as I am. And so I never, if somebody comes to tell me that they like the movie, I never look at them sideways like for real. I just say okay, because I understand that I am a snob when it comes to movies.
Yeah, because I've seen some feedback in some of the chat groups, because and like, "Ooh, girl, it was good," and then someone was like, are you serious right now?
No,
You're being funny." Like, I've
no.
seen the whole gamut of, "Oh, I enjoyed it," or "Wow, the lady, did she really just get naked?" Because somebody tried to explain the movie to me, and then there was
Mm-hmm.
someone they undressed and the
Well,
mama
I'll
was
give you the
naked. Yeah.
synopsis of the first 10 minutes, okay? I I try
Never
as hard as I can. I try I like it's like staying in a relationship you know is no longer good for you, that doesn't serve you. And it's friendships or relationships. You just hope that something's gonna change. And here's the thing: two things are true, right? He absolutely, and I've said this before. I said this, I think he won some award. It was like an Oscar, honorary Oscar, I think.
Mhm.
Um, Two things can be true. I he pays people black folks more than they get paid in
Hollywood.
the more mainstream Hollywood
Mhm.
movies, right? I've heard multiple people say that he has paid them the most that they've ever paid. Corey Hardrick said it. Taraji P. Henson said it. A lot of people have said that they feel like he pays them the worth. And he's bought
Mhm.
a lot of business and boosted the economy in Atlanta.
Yeah,
He
he's
has his
created
own
a ton
sound.
of jobs.
Yes, he has his own sound stage. He is giving B and C list actors the ability to thrive with his TV shows. And he's
Oh,
had
yeah.
some very stellar A-list act I would consider A-list actors in his movies that have gone on to do other things. My issue with Tyler Perry is there's no complexity, there's no depth with his characters. I don't feel anything when I watch these movies, right?
Do you
I
think
can't
that's what he's going for, though, based on his target audience?
no, I think that Tyler Perry is an old school black man who tries to be progressive, but I think his past and the way that he grew up has a profound effect on how he perceives black women, black men, black families. And instead of just doing some intensive therapy to work that shit out, he tries to work it out through his films. Every film has the same plot.
Formula.
It's a church fearing mother or father, right? A praying mother, father, grandmother. It's a
Mhm.
woman who's downtrodden, beaten. Good job though.
Right.
But and what you say, this is a successful woman with all these accolades, and she marries the most dusty Negro that she could possibly find, who is
Mhm.
abusive either financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, or all of them,
All of
right?
them. Mhm.
And she is with a man who's mildly successful or very successful, and she leaves him for the mechanic, the bus driver, the
Mhm.
tow truck driver, the farmer. Okay. There's no depth, there's no complexity. I like to figure out on my own who's, who is, who am I rooting for? Who am I supporting? Who, like, and even like, I feel like even with the worst of villains, there's still
Mhm.
something there that you can empathize with, right? Even with the
Mhm.
worst of them. He has villains and you don't even understand why they became the way they became. They just plop, here they are.
There's no character development.
There's none.
Yeah, okay.
And he might drop a little thing
Hint
here
here and
and
there.
there to tell you. And I'm not saying that you have to give us this whole synopsis, but it would help to kind of feel something for these characters.
Right.
And then I feel like what he does is he hits you first with something really fast, and then he slow walks it. It is like a extremely slow burn, and then he realizes, oh shit, I got 15 minutes to wrap this up, and then gives you the most ridiculous, outlandish ending, and you're like,
Ending.
how is this possible? Or what the hell just happened? How did we get here? So
Yeah.
I look at the situation and I'm just like, this is just not. This is I'm a movie snob. I like cinematography. I
So
like
do you
story
think it's
development. I
art
like character.
imitating life?
No. Let me tell you why. The first 10 minutes, we're in a funeral home. I mean, we're in a church. And I'm gonna do some research because I think the church is the same church. It looked like the same church from Color Purple.
Oh, okay.
So the original, not the remake.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it starts off again, spoiler alert, with them in church and they're at a funeral. And Megan Good and Corey are husband and wife. And you learn very quickly that the person that's in the casket is his brother. And we don't know at this point why he's dead. But if you look at the family structure, if you look at how Tyler has presented his side of the family, you can kind of get a sense of what possibly happened that landed that man in that casket.
Oh dear.
And so you have the preacher who is Megan's father preaching, and he's preaching a good sermon, and he's turning to a particular passage of the Bible. And basically what he's telling this man, this family who's grieving, that let's be real, your son's in hell, he's going to hell.
Oh.
Yes, your son is going to hell. He is not in heaven with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He is burning in eternal damnation with the devil. And the reason why is because he ain't shit, y'all ain't shit. He got killed trying to rob a member of the church, and the lady shot him. She was an elderly woman.
Oh.
Okay. And you know, I don't even know why my daughter married your dusty ass son, but here we are. And the only reason why we are here is because she laid it on my heart to pay for this funeral for y'all because y'all ain't got no money to bury your child. This is what the pastor is saying in church. Now, do we have some churches that are outlandish like this? Absolutely. Which is another thing I have a problem with, but we can get into that at another time. I understand fully that it is a conversation that needs to be had because everybody ain't going to hell. Everybody ain't going to heaven. So yes, was he being very transparent about where this man's soul was? Yes. As a pastor, absolutely. But here we are. So the mother's pissed and she gets up and she starts going off like, how dare you? Your daughter's trash, blah, 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 blah. I don't need your hand-me-downs. You think you doing something because you pay for this? Like, apparently, the mother gave her an outfit to wear to the funeral because the mother ain't had none. She stripped. She took everything off in her slip. She's standing in a slip, and then told them to get her son out of there. So the brothers go to lift the brother up in the casket. She said, "No, leave the casket because they're gonna come and say some shit about that. Get him out the casket." They took this man's dead body out of the casket.
Was this supposed to be a comedy?
Oh, I laughed thoroughly through it because I said, let me just give this a chance. Because one thing I will say I'll do, I'm not going to critique a movie that I have not seen, right? I'm just not going to do it. So I watched the 10 minutes. I was like, this is outlandish. I'm not watching this. But I said, no, Zarifa, give it, just go in it always with an open mind. I do that with a lot of films. There's a lot of people that there are a lot of directors that I just automatically do that with, even though I know sometimes they go left. Christopher Nolan is one of those individuals. Sometimes I'll be like, dude, what is this?
It's like M. Night.
What are you doing?
M. Night Shyamalan too.
Yeah, okay. M. Night Shyamalan is probably the equivalent of, if you want to look at it like that, of Tyler Perry. Like, you know what's gonna happen. Like, his formula is the same, right? He surprised you with that first maybe 2 movies, and then this is, you know what I mean? So I was watching this and I said, he needs to hand over the writing credit to someone else.
Oh yeah, I saw that
Just
those comments from some
just
folks.
let somebody else try.
Is he the
Just tell
only
them.
person that writes?
He writes, he directs, he produces, he does it all. And
He
it
doesn't have any
shows.
other
There's
folks
Let me
helping?
tell you,
Right. Oh wow.
and then I'm going to come off of this because again, I know I'm sounding very snobbish and very elitist when it comes to movies. Every great director that I love,
Uh-huh.
actors that I love, they challenge themselves. They do things and they push the envelope. Yeah, Martin Scorsese. If I say that name, most people are going to attribute him to mob movies. You're going to say Goodfellas. You're going to say things like that. But he also has
Yeah.
done Raging Bull. He also did if I'm not mistaken, he did The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio. He did The Departed. There are
That
movies
was a good
that
one.
aren't in those constructs,
Yeah.
right? You have somebody like Steven
Ah,
Spielberg.
yes. Our producer said something in the chat, and I think it
What?
makes sense.
He treats it like a stage
Yeah.
play. Well, and that's what it is. If this was a stage play, makes absolutely sense. It makes
Complete.
absolute
Yeah.
sense.
I could see that in
Complete
the
sense.
shape. Yeah. I
Complete
could see that.
sense. But you're translating something that you would show in a play on screen, and it just doesn't cross over well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Another person, Steven Spielberg, started out like, think about it. He did AI, he did ET, but this man also did Schindler's List.
Yeah.
You have somebody like Denzel that can go from Shakespeare to Training Day. You have somebody like Daniel Day-Lewis that could go from my left foot to Lincoln. I'm just saying, I feel like you should be progressing in your craft. If you keep generating the same things over and over and over again, you really are isolating a huge part of the population. Like, I understand that he's making movies for our people, but I I don't want this to be a representative. Like, if there was a time capsule, I don't want Tyler Perry's movies to, and somebody came back 300 years later and say, how did Black people live? I don't want Tyler Perry's movies to be a representation of that. Me, because it's always a struggle. Black people are always in a struggle in every one of
Always.
his movies. Everybody struggles. And yes, Black people struggle, but why does that always have to be our story? Why can't you make something like The Photograph?
That was a good one. That was a good one. Some type of those thought-provoking, emotion-provoking, but that requires a level of understanding, or and you also got to think about what folks are coming for. Because
True.
think about it, because if when he did the Family That Prays, the success of that compared to the success of, I Could Do Bad All by Myself. And I don't know because I didn't really see all of those movies. I can't
Mm-hmm.
cop to that. So I was introduced to Tyler Perry during his play days with Medea.
Mm-hmm.
And then the movie transition was very different. But then you look at the shows like The Oval, and then all the other shows he has. Like, I don't know much about them. Sisters, or
Mm-hmm.
um Have and Have Nots. Is that him? The Have and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, so I feel like who he's trying to, and I don't want to say pander because I don't think that's the right word. I think he feels like the stories he's telling, rightfully so, are kind of in that stage play realm, but it's like he's he's trying to attract the the bus loads that go see the plays.
For facts. I mean,
You
and
know what I'm
that's,
saying? And then
yeah,
and that's a massive appeal, and it's still the church group, because think about how many people s stereotypically in the church aren't necessarily gonna be out and about going to the movies unless it's Tyler Perry.
those are facts. And I don't dispute that at all. And I don't look down on anyone who likes his films because
Right.
again, everything ain't for everybody. I just want I don't understand. There's only a few of us in this space. Regina King, Spike
Mhm.
Lee, Denzel Washington, um, uh, and name Fuqua, Anthony for
Oh,
Leela
yeah.
Rashawn's husband.
Yeah.
There's only a few of us in the space, right? What's her name? Ava. DuVernay.
DuVernay.
Ryan Coogler. Like, why is Ryan Coogler? This is funny, and I'll say this, and then I'll move off of it. Somebody when they talked about how they showed Tyler Perry's movie, and they showed that scene. Somebody said, "I want Ryan Coogler to do to Tyler Perry what Kendrick did to Drake."
Oh my.
And I said, "Yeah, I get that." And here's the thing, like, my thing has always been when I go to a movie, like, there are certain movies I go to, I already know what to expect, so I'm emotionally prepared for that, right? When I go to a Marvel movie, I'm going to escape. We live in a time where it's like
Right.
constant negative images of us. It's constant negative talk. It's just a bunch of negativity. So when I go to a movie now, I want there to be some positivity. I want to evoke some type of joy or emotion, or feel like somebody is going to come and save the day. Like, these fictional characters are going to come and they're going to, or just laugh.
Right.
I laughed at this movie, but I was laughing at stuff that wasn't funny. You understand what I'm saying?
There's a different locus of laughter within the framework of what was presented.
Yes. And I just feel like, and this is me being very transparent, I just want us as a people to challenge him to give us more depth. It's okay to tell a story where the characters are very complex, and at the end, you don't know who you really should have rooted for. You don't know if this person was good or bad, or yes, this person was a piece of crap. Case in point, and then the Joker, not the DC comic version, but the new Todd Phillips version of Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. By the end of that movie, I said, I understand why the Joker is a damn Joker. And I have some sympathy and empathy for him. Even though I've been shown that he is absolutely a trash human being,
right?
I understand why he got where he got. And I can't really.
But see, that's the beauty of storytelling with a movie, which is what I think you're kind of alluding to in some aspects, that you feel for that character and you kind of like, damn, I guess I probably would have ended up like that too, considering because there's character development and depth,
and
you're able to see the situation from the villain's point of view.
That's all I'm saying.
And are they a villain, or did society make them such? And it evokes different questions, whereas I don't think necessarily some of Tyler's movies evoke questions.
No, they don't.
They're
Thanos
just escape.
is a terrible. Thanos was a terrible villain, but you understand why he did what he did.
He did. You were like,
times you want to snap your fingers and take out half the damn world because of how crazy it is. That's all I'm saying. And
it's relatable. It's relatable on a different level.
Yes. All I'm saying is, it's okay to make us laugh. It's okay to have those types of movies. All I'm asking is just for a little bit of growth from Tyler. That's all I'm asking. Just give me something where I leave there and I'm like, ooh, okay. The last two movies, it was about a woman and some trifling nigga, and I'm tired of it.
The formula.
Yes, it is a formula.
But it works for him. It keeps people employed. But that control, I think, that to allow new writers to come up, if you're going to help other folks, there should be other aspects within your company. But hell, he's a multi-billionaire or whatever. He can run his company how
he can do what he wants. And I'm just going to say this, and then we can go to the break. His target audience is old, and he's not appealing to the young audience at all. And at some point, you're going to have to understand that core group of people is not going to, you're going to have to appeal to a larger audience at some point. And that's a whole nother conversation, because that goes into church and what how people's religious beliefs are panning out to be these days and all of that. But let's just go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back to our topic, which is transparency. Okay. So our topic today, no, it's not Tyler Perry, although you might have thought it, because of the rant that I went on for 25
But
minutes.
Zarifa was being transparent about her views on such film being presented.
Yes, okay. So the topic, the power of transparency. I know you're listening like, okay, what do you talk about? Me being see-through? No, bitch, no. It's about
Invisible Man.
Tyler Perry. That's what I want to see. Make a movie about an invisible man, but he's not. Never mind. Never
You know
mind.
what?
I ain't
That's
even
setting
gonna.
it up for Tubi. It's setting up for Tubi.
Yes. Yes. So what is transparency? Definition. Let's take it from a professional standpoint. About openness, clarity, and honesty in all aspects of the business operation and communication. Okay. From a personal standpoint, transparency is about being open and honest and authentic. Authentic is a key word there.
Mm-hmm.
In one's personal interactions and relationships. Common misconception: transparency is not oversharing, it's not lack of privacy. Okay. It's just, like I said, it's just having an open line of communication
Right.
to feel vulnerable to express certain things about what's transpiring without the feeling of judgment or concern or panic
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, um, I don't know.
Everybody's
But
like
yeah,
kind of on this. You hope that the transparency leads to people being on the same page,
right.
but there's a different forms of transparency.
Yes, there are.
It can take it, and it really depends on the context. So, in both the personal and professional settings, there's professional transparency that Zarifa spoke to earlier. With the financial transparency, sharing budget information, balance sheets, show that you're not cooking the books, cash flow statements, so folks
Mm-hmm.
understand where things are, salary ranges and bonuses to the appropriate parties, right? Not necessarily knowing what your boss makes when you're in the mailroom. No, not to be disparaging, but clearly there's a hierarchy there. But they're not going to necessarily know what that person makes. One
No, but you
sided
know what?
will,
But
maybe.
in the government, unfortunately or
Right.
fortunately, depending on how you do it, the government is very transparent about what you make because they
That is
post
true.
the
Your
if
salary.
you're a GS level employee, if you're a
You
GS
can find out.
employee, you can find out like
It's
what
like
that
2 or 3
person makes.
years delayed, but you still gonna find out what they was making a couple years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
so those are those type of things. There's also operational transparency. When How is the flow of making being made? What is the process? Outlining your workflows and performance indicators and metrics. I know for us being in the government, when we have our performance review, there's this whole litany of things that we have to go through, that we have to look at, have to sign off on, that we
Yeah.
understand that this is what we're being critiqued upon, and if we need improvement. And then we also have the opportunity to be transparent with the things that we may have done to contribute to fulfill those rules and regulations or stipulations per our job description. So that's an example, I would say, of that type of thing, operational transparency for us.
And performance requirements, because I'm
Yeah.
assuming your agency has performance requirements. I have
Yes.
to set every cycle, evaluation cycle. I get my
Mm-hmm.
performance requirements again. Some things may have changed, some things may not have changed. It might be the same thing. I go over
Mm-hmm.
my performance requirements. This is what you need to do to get an outstanding. This is what you need to do to get excellent. This is what you do to get a satisfactory. And then when your evaluation comes, you are graded based on what you did per your performance requirement.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there is a
And
high level of transparency there in
for
terms of
sure.
what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And then I think that comes with that, as far as what you're understanding, what you're supposed to do. And we're just using our example as our performance review because I think that's a relatable one. Communication transparency. We're all at work, we're having accessible meetings, everybody who's supposed to be there should be there, providing regular updates in the company performance plans for moving forward, and channels of feedback. That's transparency that I think a lot of workplaces struggle with sometimes, because
Mm.
someone didn't get the email back about who did what, and that's why we end up having meetings about meetings. But I digress, because the
You know,
communication transparency sometimes is a little fuzzy.
off. I
Yeah.
will say at my agency, we have check-ins,
Mhm.
bi-weekly check-ins, or maybe it's a monthly check-in. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think it's bi-weekly. And the reason why I say I don't know is because it's the summer months have kind of thrown us all off.
Right.
And they have a Q&A where they put, hey, you can be anonymous and you can ask your
Oh,
questions, or you
really?
can put your name. Yeah, or you can stand on business and ask your question. And
Okay.
then they have an email box that you can
Mhm.
send certain things to, and people will get back to you. Um, I will say this: establishing clear channels for feedback don't doesn't ain't whatever. That doesn't mean that you're going to get the feedback you were looking for. It's just I have established these clear channels for you to communicate with me. Or like the head of my agency, she has office hours, not
Mhm.
I guess you could consider them office hours, right? And she offers them like once every like month, like these are the hours that you can come in to kind of talk to me about some of the things that are going on in your
Mhm.
area. Um Now does anything ever come of that? I don't know. But
I was just about to ask, is it that
I
to
feel like
make you feel better? That you
I
feel
think
like you were being
so.
heard? And then I don't know, because I think that's
I,
across the board for a lot of
I think
organizations.
so. I mean, coming from a perspective of a former supervisor, there's a level of transparency and discretion
Mhm.
sometimes toe the line together,
Right.
because while you want to be transparent, right? While you
Mhm.
want to talk about updates on the company's performance, and while you want to talk about salary ranges, and while you want to talk about income statements and how well the business is doing, sometimes you can't tell people that.
Correct.
You
It's not
sometimes you can't
appropriate.
tell your workers that, because then there's panic that sets in.
It's a greater good you have to
Yeah,
consider.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
there's just some things you can't divulge because of
Right.
discretion.
So it's
There's legal
relative to the
formalities.
point.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
relative to a point for sure. For
And I
sure.
think
And
that
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 yeah. Mhm.
I, I think that that's what some people get tripped up on, because they feel like if I ask you to be transparent, or if you're being transparent, you need to be fully transparent. And that isn't always the case. Sometimes you
Right.
can only be transparent to a point.
The shades of it.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a level of opacity
yeah,
to your transparency
yeah,
because it can't be too transparent. You gotta have a little bit of opaqueness in there because
yeah.
you really are not allowed to ethically to say those things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't because it could be a conflict of interest. You know, how this impacts the for our example, the workplace or wherever it is you are, that it could the ripple effect of being transparent would be that much more detrimental to the overall functioning of that entity. So
Right.
it has to be relative, and is it ethical? Because there is a code of conduct in which you have to adhere to, which people understand you are transparent once you've conveyed to people that there is a code of conduct, which clearly outlines, I think, for the most part, when you can and can't be transparent. So you're not necessarily going to buck against it because there's a code of conduct for certain
Right. Right.
things, right? And then the data that comes along with that, and that code of conduct, so to speak, could be that data as far as that you need for that company to understand why things can't be the way they are, and understanding
So
why privacy policies have to be, for example, have to be communicated in that fashion.
so I think those two levels of transparency, like ethical transparency and the data transparency, are definitely things I think that a lot of organizations and a lot of public and private organizations kind of dealing with now, right? Because
Mhm.
when we look at the DEI like
Mm.
initiatives that were first pushed forward, right? There is a level of ethical transparency that needs to be there, right? Are you
Mhm.
reporting on all of the social and environmental impacts that, you know, that you've instituted within your organization? A lot of
Mhm.
these companies have instituted DEI working groups and initiatives, but haven't reported on them. They've kind of just
Right.
like, oh, well, they're no longer here. Well, when they were there, what were you doing? before you
Right.
dismantle it, what did you find? I'm curious because I'm pretty sure that you did find some things. Then this was where we go into data transparency. Give me the
Uh-huh.
data. Give me the data.
Let it speak for
Make it
them.
accessible. Yes. Like, um, you know, let me know what you found.
Mhm.
Or like, you know, if we do, let's say, a FOIA request for something, and I and the FOIA request is something and it's not national security and I want to know, then let me know.
Right.
Have it be an open data initiative. What's going on? What's happening? What's happening
Mhm.
at your company?
Right.
What's happening at your school? Schools do it.
They
Hey,
do.
this is how
That's
many
why you
people
get those
we've
what animal? Annual those annual reports
yeah,
that we all have had to compile at some point in time in our life. That's
yeah,
supposed to give you that 30,000-foot high level view of the data that has been collected about the company that is allowed to be shared with its constituents,
yeah.
you
And I'm
know?
pretty sure a lot of us are working with places that are either very transparent or you don't know what the hell is you don't know
Correct.
what the hell is going on.
That part, depending on your industry,
You
for
come to work,
sure.
you just show up, you just go home.
And
You don't really know what
I'm
happened.
I'm just here to make the donuts. I just work here. I don't wanna know. Yeah, and sometimes that's a good place to be. Sometimes,
Yeah,
not always, but sometimes,
yeah. Sometimes it is.
because you don't wanna know.
Yeah.
You don't
It's
wanna
what is
know.
it? Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yes, for some, for sure, for sure. Now, when ignorance is bliss, I will not necessarily think that's a good thing in personal situations.
No,
Okay?
no.
That
Okay, no.
ignorance is bliss does not translate well with personal transparency
No,
at all.
no,
I don't
no.
think they 2 go together
Ah,
because I mean, let me rephrase that. Let me There's levels to this shit. That there are levels of ignorance of being bliss in a personal situation where see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil because it makes your life better because you feel
yeah.
like, oh, I'm just gonna go along with my little opaque world of pseudo transparency. I'm gonna walk around with blinders on in the dark so I can't see shit about what's really going on.
Right.
But, so when it comes to personal transparency, there's emotional, being open about your emotions and feelings. Like we said, that's not always the case with some folks. Communicating personal needs and desires and showing vulnerability and admitting weaknesses. So I think this level of transparency is what people feel like may serve as what is connecting them to some people in relationships because there's that
Yes.
level of vulnerability. There's like, oh, I can see you, and being seen, I see you, and
Yes.
because you're being transparent with me and telling me where you are in this situation, any relationship, it doesn't have to be romantic. This is all inclusive relationships, but you feel that way that that person is taking the time to be transparent for you emotionally, right? And then that can also, I guess, kind of weave into the behavioral
Wait, but
transparency. Uh-huh.
before
Go
you
ahead. Go
move
ahead.
on to behavioral transparency, I think that emotional transparency is the place that gets a lot of people stuck because
Yeah.
some people feel like this is the area in which people weaponize what
Mm.
their transparency.
Yes, because that's where
Because
trust comes in, because if you're
yeah,
emotionally transparent, you're inclined to trust that person and let your guard down,
yeah,
and then that's when shit goes right or
left.
left.
Yeah. Because if I hear someone say they don't like to be transparent, I always equate it to this type and this level of transparency, and I feel like it's if you people feel like it's they've either had it weaponized before
Mhm.
and therefore they don't want to go there again. They are looking at themselves in the mirror and they've done it to other people, and so they try to make it seem like, oh, I'm not I you're not going to weaponize did this because
Right.
and they say that because it's really them who does it,
Mhm.
or they've heard too many stories or seen too many things where people have weaponized somebody's emotional transparency
Yes.
against them.
Yes.
So I think this is the area
And they
that
use
people
that against,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that trip
That I
people up the
think is
most.
the most devastating. I think
Mm,
this is what ends people up on Snapped, on those types of Lifetime Movie Network situations because you like you said, you're stuck in that emotional part, because you were transparent or that person told you they were transparent. And now you're in such a space that you're like, wait, what? And then you can't get past it, like you had mentioned, because something was done to you that is counterintuitive to you being emotionally transparent. And then that shows up in your behaviors because sometimes your actions align with your words or they don't. And being truthful or straightforward versus shades of gray, and taking responsibility for your actions and decisions, which a lot of people
Mm.
don't know how to do.
That's some place else that gets people
That
tripped up.
that see, yeah, people like,
Accountability.
do as I say, not as I do. I'm gonna do what the hell I want, and I don't care about the consequences. And you should deal with it just because.
But not even that, right? Or not even just that. If I am someone who takes accountability for my actions, right?
Ooh,
If
accountability.
if I look
There
at
you
what
go.
I've done, like let's say I am I cheated on my spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, and I know it was wrong. And as soon as it happens, I come and I tell my spouse, I cheated on you.
Right.
Taking responsibility for my actions and my decisions. You're showing
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability. You're admitting a weakness.
Right.
You're being and then you say, here's why I did it. I'm being very transparent. And in that conversation, that transparency may bring out things that you don't want to hear.
Correct.
Because
Because
being
you're seeing
transparent,
things
right? Being transparent isn't always going to be a very pleasant conversation.
at all. At all. There's some guardrails. There are no guardrails when it comes to transparency sometimes.
No, no.
And
If
whatever
I,
you is revealed to you. And I think sometimes individuals take that choice or opportunity from individuals
mm-hmm,
to be transparent or see them as transparent because of their lack of accountability, because
mm,
they don't think that that person can handle their level of transparency. So they choose
mm-hmm,
their actions to not be accountable and take that choice away from them.
mm,
So that person can't decide if I really want to see what's being put in front of me, and they'll either
mm,
stay or walk away. And that's friendship, work, or whatever. But
mm,
I feel like that sometimes transparency, and like what we were talking about with work situations or professional situations, is decided by the person trying to convey the information, and they determine the level of transparency that you will have with them. When it comes
mm-hmm,
to that in relationships, good, bad, or indifferent, there's time and a place for that.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
like that, what do you call it? A Few Good Men. You can't
mm,
handle the truth. And a lot of people, I mean, there
mm,
are a lot of people that can't, but there are a lot of people that can, but that decision is made for them. And there's a lot of people that think they can, and then they can't. So there's definite continuum of this, but it's not of that person's decision to make that choice for somebody else. But in some situations, some, because like we said, sometimes it needs to be made. But I don't know, it affects how you kind of go into the next one with the relational transparency. How you relating to someone is going to determine how you can communicate your level of transparency. How do you share your thoughts and your experiences specifically with your loved ones? How are you resolving or addressing conflicts, and are you doing it constructively? And are you clearly communicating and respecting the boundaries that that person has, instead of necessarily imparting your boundaries on them, assuming you can figure out what their level of understanding is going to be for the level of transparency that they're giving.
mm.
And that's kind of, And then you got to think about, what is the intentions of that transparency? Why are certain people being transparent with you? Because if someone is not being transparent with you, what is their motivation? Why are they lying? Why are they keeping? Why are they omitting certain aspects of whatever their situation may be, good, bad, or indifferent? And I'm not saying this is all negative, but it's those things all come into play when you're engaging with someone, and what's your intention of that transparency. Are you
I
trying to
feel
be
like,
just a little bit transparent so you can get away with what it is you've been doing, or continue to do what you're doing?
see, and I look at transparency and intentions in a different way. And that is
Mhm.
interesting because when I look at transparency and intentions, I'm looking at it from a perspective of we're dating, and you have no intention on getting married, or you don't see me as a partner,
Mm,
right? You don't see me as a partner, a longtime partner, a
right.
lifetime partner, but you don't, you're not clear about those intentions and motivations.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am thinking that we are on
Track.
the track to happily ever after, and your intentions are just to hit it and quit it,
Right.
right? But then I think that there are people who are very clear in their intentions. I
Yes.
don't want to be with you.
Right.
You are
I'm
not
just here to
somebody.
bump
I'm here, right? I'm just here so I don't get fired.
bump uglies. Right.
That's how.
Yes. I'm just here so I don't get fired. Thank you, Marshawn.
And I feel like some people just don't hear it. They don't want to
Yes.
believe that somebody can be that transparent, that forward, with setting realistic expectations, being very clear about their intentions and their motivations, and it
Mm.
not be and it be that.
So to that point, do you think that's where a lot of in this specific example, when for instance, a guy will tell a chick, "Well, I don't want anything serious." What the girl here is, you don't want anything serious with anyone else but me. And I'm going to figure out a way to make it so that you want to be serious with me. Even though that person was clear about their intentions.
I feel like in that situation, if a man says, I don't want anything serious, if you hear anything other than that, then you need to go get your ears cleaned, get the
I
wax
agree.
taken out, put a hearing aid in. I think when we decide not to pay attention to somebody being very clear in their intentions, is because we think we can change their mind. I don't
Mm,
necessarily think that there are women who think that, oh, he's saying he wants to be serious with me and no one else. I feel like there's some women that look at that situation and say, I can change your mind.
yeah.
I'm the woman that can change your mind. You say
Mhm.
that now,
Mhm.
but I feel like going back to what you said when we're talking about behavioral transparency, I feel like behavioral transparency and intention go together, because your
Mhm.
actions and your words should match.
They
Don't
should.
tell me that you do not want to be in a relationship with me, a serious relationship with me. You don't want to be my boyfriend or my girlfriend. You don't want to be my long term partner, but you do all of the things
That look like you're my
that
partner.
look like that's what you want.
Mhm. And then when I question you, we just kicking it. But you're treating me like your girlfriend, your wife, your all this other stuff, or boyfriend or partner. But
Yeah.
that's what your actions are saying. But your words are saying, no, I'm good.
Yep.
That's not,
And I
you
feel
knew
like,
what it was. You
yes,
knew
and I
what it
feel like
was.
some people manipulate that situation
That is where
for the greater
manipulation comes
good.
into play.
Yep.
Mhm.
They are thinking, oh well, I was very transparent about what I wanted and what I needed. Yeah, and your
Mhm.
intentions, but your behaviors have, you have to understand that your intention and your transparency has to transcend to every area. It can't
Right.
just be with you communicating me your expectations and your motivation. Your behavior has to also match that.
Exactly. You can't because you're speaking with a forked tongue at that point. Saying you want to be married or not married, but then you're acting like you're married in front of particular people, but then behind closed doors you're not. What? You're not really you're not being transparent to anyone else outside, let alone to the person that you're bamboozling and trying to get
Mm-hmm.
over and trying to, just, you know, mess with, I'll say, mentally mess with to me. So
There we go.
those are some things that and then about personal information, being open about your history and experiences and communicating likes and preferences and dislikes honestly. Don't just go along to get along because you think that person it's going to make that person like you more because you're not being transparent that you don't like what's that movie, Runaway Bride, where she didn't know what kind of eggs she liked. She just said she liked all the type of eggs, whatever husband she was trying to date or fiance.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't really clear about what she wanted, so she just went along with what that person wanted, so then it looked like to the other person that they're all on the same page, when that in fact is not the case because that person has
Mhm.
not clearly communicated their preferences, likes or dislikes, let alone their experiences as to why they have those likes or dislikes and stuff like that. But then here's the other part of that are there's some challenges that come with transparency of the vulnerability that we spoke to, and how do we overcome the fear of vulnerability and judgment? And then how do you balance that with your privacy and boundaries? Because some of those things have to be revealed. There's a level of, I mean, I guess you can put out, this is my boundary to, I have my boundaries, that this is a level of privacy that I want, if they go hand in hand in that way. But then you also have to be sure that you're being vulnerable enough to understand what you are willing to be transparent about.
And this is, I think, gets people caught up a lot when we're talking about STIs and revealing your status with certain things. Because some people feel like, well, if I'm, HIV positive, but it's undetected, or you know what I mean, it's at a level that's undetected. Why do I have to disclose that information to you while I'm dating?
Mhm.
Or if I'm bisexual, why do I have to disclose that information to you while I'm dating?
Mhm.
Some people feel like that's my privacy, that's my boundary. But then the person on
Right.
the other end is like, well, you should have told me that from the beginning because I would
Exactly.
have dated you had I known X, Y, and Z. So it's a very fine line because you
Very.
just don't know.
Because you don't want to tell everything, but there's certain things that, well, I can't even say that because certain things, yes, that we all feel like standard foundational things that you should divulge.
Mm-hmm.
Friendship, relationship, romantic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's certain things that, eh, are you really? Does that person need to know that? Really?
Well, that then leans into why transparency actually matters, right?
Mhm.
Because even at the core of it, it transparency is needed in whether it's professional or personal. And it's needed and it's crucial for several reasons, right? In a personal relationship, it helps build trust, it improves communication, it enhances emotional intimacy, which I think is very key because I think a
Mm.
lot of couples, and I'm speaking from romantic perspective, emotional intimacy is what gets people hemmed up.
Yep. Or lack of it.
Mm-hmm.
Or lack of it, I would
Right.
say, for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely. It promotes accountability,
Mhm.
and then it helps facilitate conflict resolution, which I think is another thing that gets people hemmed up. Because if you're dealing with someone who isn't able to deal with you being very transparent about how you're feeling about a situation, I can give a good
Mm.
example. I was watching this show, and it was a bunch of women sitting around talking about their sexual experiences.
Mhm.
And this one woman said, she's been in therapy. She's talking to her therapist. She was talking about how her love life is very lackluster. Her and her husband just aren't connecting. And then she explains to the therapist like why they weren't connecting. And the therapist says, well, you need to be transparent to your husband about why you aren't connecting sexually and physically. So she goes and has
Mhm.
a conversation with her husband and say, hey, I need to be transparent with you. You've been doing this to me sexually for years. And I have to tell you, I don't like it. It doesn't turn me on. It doesn't make me feel good. It just makes it, if it makes me feel objectified, I don't want to do this anymore. Also, I need to be very honest with you that I have not come to a climax in our entire relationship through penetration.
Damn.
And
What a life.
we have, and it's been difficult, and I feel like that's why right now we are at in a discord in our sexual relationship.
Mhm.
And her husband wound up going out and cheating after
Yeah.
she was very transparent about it, right? Because he couldn't take the fact that she was just being transparent to better them.
Mm. You're right.
He wasn't able to resolve that particular conflicts
With
within their
himself.
marriage.
Mhm.
He couldn't even sit and say, you know what? Here are some of the things that I wish you did do differently. And you may not like that, but what if let's come to a common ground?
Mhm. That takes a level of maturity that a lot of people do not have.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah. All the people do not have it. You're right.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately, you know,
but it matters because it matters for two reasons. One, you can get what you want
that part. Closed mouths
if
don't get
you
fed.
they don't get that, right? It helps people take accountability.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that is what is necessary to have a successful, healthy relationship. If her husband had been more open to hearing
Mhm.
what she had to say, and instead of internalizing it as something,
Mm.
as her trying to make him seem like he's a failure, and her actually saying, I want our relationship to be a
To
success.
work. And these are
I
the
want it to
steps
work.
that I think that could make it a success. And I
Right.
think that's why a lot of relationships and friendships break up because that other person, the one person is truly asking for transparency and the other person can't handle the
Right.
transparency that may be given, or maybe there's just no transparency at all and the person
And
just decides to be transparent with everybody else but you.
right. I feel like those are facts. Um, and then on the flip side, when we're talking about professional relationships,
Mhm.
when you are at a company, being transparent with your employees is crucial because it helps build credibility and trust. You
Correct. And
need
morale.
people, yes, you have to have employees trust you to want to work for you. People
Mhm.
don't want to work for people they don't trust, right? It
Correct.
does definitely has a overall effect on morale. It
Sure.
encourages open lines of communication. If your employees feel like they can trust you, then they can come to you when there are problems that need to be addressed. It enhances decision making because you're sharing information. It improves
Mhm.
accountability and integrity, which is very important to have in business. It strengthens employee morale and engagement. We already talked about that. The more open and transparent you are, the more your employees trust you, the more they become engaged, the more morale
Mhm.
gets boosted
Right.
because they valued and they feel motivated to work for you. And then it facilitates problem solving and innovation, right?
Mhm.
If you feel like you're in an environment that's very transparent, then you feel like I can exchange information openly, I can be creative, I won't feel stagnant, I can be successful here.
Right.
But we've talked about this, right?
Mhm.
Yes, it matters, but then there are ways that there's downsides to risks. Um, there are downsides and risks to being transparent. You
Yes.
can find yourself in a situation where you're overly transparent. You're sharing too much information.
Oversharing. Like the people on the airplane that sit next to you and take those next 2 hours of flight time to tell you their entire life, and you don't really care.
No,
I don't really care.
y'all
But
know
see,
me,
you don't know me, I don't know you after this, I won't even know you either. But I
right?
digress. But that's a oversharing.
Loss of mystery and individuality. I feel like this happen. This
Mm.
can happen more so in a
I like that
new
topic.
relationship.
I like that.
Loss of mystery and
Mhm.
individuality. Well, yeah,
Mhm. I like
I
that
feel
topic.
like I feel like this happens more in the beginning of a relationship. Once you marry for 20 years, what's new under the sun? But in the beginning of a relationship, I feel like you can make it less exciting and less stimulating if you just throw everything out there.
Right. There's nothing to look forward to.
No, if I know
There's no
everything
more
about you,
chapters in that book.
no.
Yeah.
Um, there can be internal conflicts, right? I feel like this is
Mhm.
more so within. I could see it in a family. Um, in a family, like you say, I'm leaving all my shit to Susie. Then there's
Mhm.
internal conflicts that are gonna happen. Why you leaving? Why she get it? There's internal conflicts. But in a professional environment, if I'm telling you what if I'm very transparent about what everybody makes, you're
Mhm.
putting people in a situation where they're looking at things as like, okay, the way you're grading people, the way that you're giving out these uh, awards or rewards for performance, the way you're paying people, there's a disparity here. There's an inconsistency here.
Right.
Now you got your employees in conflict because they feel like you're not treating them fairly or there's not an even playing field. There's potential for judgment.
Yeah.
If I'm telling you in a personal relationship that um I am this way or that way, or I had this or I had that, now you're revealing flaws, past
Right.
mistakes, unpopular opinions. Now, this is going to lead to judgment, criticism, strain
Mhm.
in the relationship. And it could be for the simplest stuff. You could be like, yeah, I used to be a Democrat, but now I'm a libertarian. What?
Right. That could shake the foundation
What?
of your whole household. What? What do you mean you don't like box macaroni and cheese? What? For some people, that could be.
What do
What do you
you
mean
mean
you?
you don't?
What do you mean you don't put raisins in your potato salad?
What do you
What?
mean you don't like Tyler Perry movies?
Right.
What do you mean?
Exactly. I can't believe you don't like his movies, the
Um,
non-Oscar winning movies, non-con film festival type movie. Yeah, I can't believe you
listen,
don't.
exactly. Or and then you go back and it's like misrepresentation and misuse, right? People can
Mm,
take the information and misinterpret it. They can take it out of
yeah,
context, right?
context is
That's could
everything.
context is everything. If in business, it can make for very harmful decisions that can overall impact the livelihood of the employees that you have and your
Hmm.
business as a whole. Can make harmful decisions in your marriage. Somebody's being transparent with you, you take something they said out of context, and because of that, you go cheat on them.
Yeah.
Now you've made a harmful decision based on something that you misinterpreted.
I think that happens more often than not. More often than not.
Just
I mean,
saying.
outside of some people just being douchebags, but yeah, I think that happens more often than not. Just my 2 cents.
Listen.
I'm just saying, those are things that we definitely need to. There's different angles and perspectives to all of this, for sure, and how important it is that transparency really does matter. But what are your thoughts on the downsides and risks outside of
Well,
anything
I mean,
else?
I feel like there's everything that's there. I feel like at this point, I mean, downsides and risks are there. We know it. We always know the downside and risk, but I think that there are ways that we could still promote transparency and
Hmm.
give people the strategies to promote transparency within their lives, whether it's in their professional life or their personal life.
But if we're doing all that, I'm trying to promote encouraging open dialogue. If you're going to be transparent, that foundation still has to be set for you to feel like you can be transparent in your dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
You can encourage it all you want, but if the format or the environment is not one of open transparency so that you feel like you can have open dialogue, you're not necessarily going to get much movement on that, you know? And then, of course, in the professional realm, sharing the goals and performances, like we mentioned before, those can definitely be applied to your personal relationships and how you conduct business within your relationships, if you
Oh,
will,
absolutely. You should
for
be able to have
sure.
a conversation and say, hey, let's do a check-in. Are our goals the same? How am I performing as a spouse?
Right.
How am I performing as a spouse?
Yes, you know what? There should be a performance appraisal for relationships every 6 months. Are
Some
we
people would
checking
never
in?
come out of unsatisfactory status.
Girl, that part
Some
right
people be
there.
on pips.
How long you been on your PIP? The past 15 years? Really? 15 years you've been on the PIP? Oh, I just wonder if any of those, like, once you get into a relationship of some sort, right? And you have your conditional phase, that 90-day period that you have in
Mm-hmm.
professional, right? And because that's also the honeymoon period for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
relationships. And your representative that has shown up is showing up on time, working overtime, taking their 30-minute lunch and coming back to their desk and doing what they're supposed to be doing. After that 90 days and they've secured the job, they're like, I'm gonna go take a 2-hour lunch and go get my nails done and go find out something else. But, really thinking about, as you're looking for how to promote these transparency aspects, you really need to sit and do some self reflection and self assessment.
Mm.
What are your own levels of transparency? And what is your motivation for your levels of transparency or lack of transparency, whatever that may be? And then are there areas of improvement in all of those areas? Are there areas of improvement in those particular lanes that you may have identified for yourself? You know, baby steps. We always say folks want honest communication, and to a point, most of us do. To a
Mm-hmm.
point. There's a point of being honest, and then there's brutally honest, and then there's just rawness. And depending on who you're speaking to and the delivery method will determine how transparent I think you are going to be with some folks. Because, like Z said before, some people internalize that and it takes them off the reservation and they can't handle it. And then encouraging feedback that you're prepared to receive, honestly. Because you could say, well, I want to know. People always say, well, I want to know. Tell me. And then you get the feedback, and then, you
The feed ain't
don't.
backing.
Right. You're like, I'm putting in my notice for this
The
job and
feed
this damn
ain't
relationship.
backing.
The feed ain't backing, and I'm out this bitch.
Antoine Fuqua, that's his name. I said
Yes,
Anthony, and it
Antoine
popped in my head. Antoine Fuqua.
Fuqua. Is he still with the other lady that he cheated on? What's the name with?
I don't think so.
I mean,
think
I
he
don't
cheated
pick up
on
a
her
call.
and then went back to Layla. And
Oh, that's a shame.
transparency wasn't. It must have been. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they got transparent and they understood what they needed and were able to work it out.
Listen, if one thing we know, the audacity gonna be audacity.
Girl, the audacity will continue to audacity with the unmitigated gall of audacity.
The audaciousness will always, the audacity will always be audacious.
Audacious, yes. Front and center.
Always. Okay, let's take a quick break and then come back with our last sip. And we are back. The last sip of tea with me, Z. So, transparency in both professional and personal relationships holds significant power by fostering trust, enhancing communication, and building stronger connections. In professional settings, transparency can lead to improved collaboration, increased accountability, and a clearer understanding of goals and expectations. It helps to create an open culture where employees feel valued and included, which can boost morale and productivity. Now, in personal relationships, transparency cultivates intimacy and trust, allowing partners to understand and support each other more deeply. However, the potential downsides of transparency, such as privacy concerns, emotional burdens, and the risk of misinterpretation, must be carefully managed. Striking a balance between openness and respect for personal boundaries is crucial to harnessing the benefits of transparency while mitigating its risk. So, we encourage and inspire you today to incorporate transparency into your daily lives. And that is the last sip of tea with me, Z.
All right, poet. Thank you, Z. Snaps. Thank y'all for joining us on Sipping Tea with Nat and Z. You can follow us on Instagram, Sipping Tea with Nat and Z _pod, and on Facebook, Sipping Tea Nat and Z, to get info on upcoming podcast topics, guest news, and just feel good, inspirational things to get you through your week. Thanks for listening, and catch us next episode where we get into something.
We don't know what that something is yet, but it's gonna be something.
It's gonna be something. Okay, just know it's gonna be something. Have a good week, y'all.